welcome to the show. My name is Lucia Dragos. I'm producer at Queens Public Television.
I'm John Collins. I'm a producer, director, and instructor at Queens Public Television, your community media center.
Hi, everyone. I am Narayan Omar. I'm also a producer and journalist at Queens Public Television.
Today's topic is COVID, who helps the homeless? And we have three amazing guests today. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Kara Oxenreider. Thanks for having me. I'm a program director at Breaking Ground for our street homeless outreach team and drop-in center in Queens.
Great. Mike?
My name is Michael Fay. Thank you for having me. I'm the administrator at the Saratoga Family Residence in Queens, a family shelter, 255 units.
And we have as well Mispa.
Hello, my name is Mispa. I'm a resident of Queens, or was until this situation I'll later explain had happened to me. I'm a graduate of Bard College, recent graduate, May 2020. I majored in sociology. My aspirations is to be a teacher, which I'm currently working on right now. I'll start mid-August. I also want to be a doula and get into real estate.
Please actually tell us about your story and how you became homeless during COVID.
So basically what had happened was, it starts like typically like, there's arguments between parents and their child. And, that's similar to what had happened to me. But a lot of it ended up having to be about the political things that was going on, such as, I'm sorry about the background noise, but a lot of the political things that was going on. So for example, me and my parents there would be a lot of misunderstandings between us. I would always have to fight for my independence. I come from a Pakistani immigrant family. And so like women are typically, right now it's a lot of people that, they're striving for their independence and things like that. But I come from a more traditional family and we're taught to be much more submissive, stay within the family and things like that. And I just wasn't with it. And so my dad, I tried to work with my family on it, but it just didn't work out. And my dad eventually was like, if you're going to be around, Black and Spanish people, saying like very racist things, like anti-Black things of that sort. He was like, you might as well leave, things like that. And then they also wanted me to marry my cousin. I said no. So, these traditional aspects played a role in it. That ended up with me becoming homeless. I stayed in a car for a couple of days. Eventually, my internship that I still tried to maintain throughout my time being homeless until I got to the shelter had paid for my hotel in between. And it was a virtual internship. It was with Texas. It was to work on my teaching, but that's basically how I got into the situation. Right after I graduated, tried to be at home for a couple of weeks. It didn't work out. And, for not just for petty reasons, it was for very political reasons, traditional reasons, things of that sort. So I was on the street for a while, then the hotel, then I went to the shelter. It was a Muslim woman shelter. And now, I'm trying to find my way, get an apartment, things of that sort.
You said that COVID had made matters more urgent for you. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, basically, just the fact that this would have happened, I feel like without COVID, this probably wouldn't have happened, because COVID, it has you more restricted at home, especially for someone coming back from college, right? So you're already you already have a curfew. You already are supposed to, stay at home so that the virus doesn't spread and stuff like that. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the restrictions on COVID it plays into people's privileges as well. And I didn't have much privilege when it came to working with the restrictions of COVID. It just made matters worse for me. Not to say restrictions shouldn't be there. It should, of course. Just saying that, it just adds to this is so COVID. It's not just a medical issue. It's very much of a political issue for that reason too. It's basically what I'm trying to say. So.
You mentioned that there was a long wait for shelters because of COVID.
Yeah. With the shelter, they wanted to see my COVID results. It was supposed to come in 3 to 4 days, but a lot of people were getting tested for it. And especially when going to a shelter already, it's not very accessible in New York City because the waiting lists are so long. And I got lucky at the Muslim women's shelter I found in Queens. I won't disclose the name because the location is confidential. but I got my results within 14 days, and then they approved of me after that. So, but yes, it was still a long wait. I still had to wait. I still had to, persuade my internship to pay for 2 more weeks of my hotel stay. And that made me personally feel like I was asking for a handout. I'm not one to do that, but I think this time really showed me that I shouldn't let pride get in the way, things like that. Yeah.
Where are you right now?
So right now, I'm currently, I don't want to say unfortunately, because I am fortunate to have somebody with me who is allowing me to stay at their apartment for the time being, because I didn't want to stay at the shelter. And that's another thing with COVID, the shelters, the spaces are much more limited. So even if I got lucky to get in there, what happened was that now there's just much more, like they're just much more strict on things. And then there's a lot of fights that go on. I didn't want to be in that type of environment. It was unhealthy. So I decided to move in with a friend instead. And that's my current situation right now. I'm trying to split the bills with them and everything. Cause again, I don't want to just, I feel bad. I don't, even if I'm in the position I'm in, I still want to stick to my morals. I still want to do what I can to lift the burden off of somebody else, So that's where I'm at right now. I want to get an apartment soon. So building my credit at the moment, things like that.
Are you receiving any help right now?
I have a GoFundMe set up. My shelter actually had recommended me to get one. It reached about 4K or 5K, but my goal is 10K, because again, it's a lot of bills right now that I have to pay a lot. And I have 2 puppies, 2 baby pit bulls. And so I need to make sure that their health is on top of it too, things like that. But yeah, the GoFundMe is one way I'm getting support. My internship, the stipend, it has been helping me. I do have a job for my weekly spendings, and that's at a hardware store. Then my teaching starts in mid-August. So everything is figured out, just housing, and then just need help financially is mainly the main issue here for me.
Well, yeah.
Thank you for sharing your story.
No problem.
Tara, you provide traditional and transitional and permanent housing for thousands of homeless people in your organization. Can you describe for us some of the factors? For instance, Ms. Webb was very clear about some of the things that created her homeless situation. What are some of the other situations that create homelessness for people?
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is that I, in my programs, work specifically with street homeless individuals. So it takes a little while before a person becomes street homeless, right? So we work with people that are actually living on the street, not folks that are couch surfing or staying with family or even staying in the shelter system. That being said, I think that, one of the #1 things that cause homelessness is lack of affordable housing. And I think after that, you also domestic violence of all different types. There's a lot of LGBTQ youth. There are youth aging out of foster care. There are folks struggling with mental health issues and with substance use. So those are some of the reasons that I know.
You provide transitional housing. Can you describe for us what that involves, what benefits that provides for people, what services are offered in transitional housing to help them?
Sure. So Breaking Ground runs 3 transitional housing sites called Safe Havens. And then one of the programs I'm the director of is our Queens Drop-In Center, which is a little different in that it's 24/7, but it doesn't have beds. It's a true emergency type place. So our Safe Havens are an alternative to shelter for chronically street homeless individuals that have a high vulnerability as opposed to some of the other folks in New York City experiencing homelessness. And it's lower threshold to try to really move people inside. And you can only get there if you're referred by a street outreach team. So folks, for example, that are transitioning into living indoors after many years, they don't need to sign for their bed every night. They can stay out for a night, go in for a night until they're more used to being inside. There is the case managers there work with less people. And there's also typically some type of primary care and psychiatric care on site. And the goal there and in our drop-in center is to get people engaged and more hopeful, and then wanting to work on a more permanent solution.
You offer buildings and scatter site apartments. I imagine that you've had to do a lot of fairly hectic work to accommodate the protocols necessary with COVID and the pandemic.
Sure, yeah. So for a while, and actually still today, every person that my staff engages in our drop-in center or on the street, they screen them for COVID to make sure that they get the help they need if they need it. We also have, our program is essential. Like, we've been out through COVID. We work with people that are living on the streets. So just to abandon that responsibility during COVID wouldn't have been appropriate, in my opinion. So we've been out there, but we provide our staff and clients with PPE. We provide, the cloth face masks. We hand out hand sanitizer. We have a more robust cleaning schedule, both in my programs and in our buildings. And we did some pretty heavy tracking of any cases that we had in our buildings or any of our programs in order to keep the cases at bay.
Do people pay for any of these services? How are supportive services financed?
So my program is funded through the Street Outreach and Drop-In Center are funded through a contract with the city's Department of Homeless Services. And that's like what I can speak to. Our permanent buildings, though, like the tenants pay rent. They pay only usually about a third of their income, depending on what type of unit they have. They also take Section 8 vouchers and different types of vouchers through the city.
Do they sign leases to work to?
Yeah. So in our permanent buildings, folks sign a lease like you or I would have. The difference is that there are case management services on site to help the different special populations living there maintain that lease, and they are voluntary. But they are a big help to folks that are maybe housed for the first time in many years and struggling with some other issues on top of that.
Michael, can you tell us a little bit about the Saratoga Family Residence and what has changed during COVID?
So there's an awful lot that has changed. Just the mask and the social distancing, the sanitizing that we're doing on a daily basis. We still have the families. Some of the programs that we run have to be limited to, we have an after-school program and a recreation program, so we run that virtually. We just started having small groups of activities outside and keeping it small groups so we can keep the social distancing going. Programmatically, moving people out to permanent housing has been okay. Since January, we moved out 92 families into permanent housing. The thing that's been affected the most has been our employment program. Last year, we moved 145 clients into permanent full-time employment. Because of COVID, that has taken a hit. But we're starting to see that grow back to the way it was before. I think that the clients and the staff work well together in order to, keep everyone safe here. And we have a lot of messaging that we use for the clients in flyers as well as media centers, and we keep them informed of what's going on as well.
And homelessness disproportionately impacts children. Have you noticed increase within the population that you serve?
Yeah, so we haven't seen any change in numbers as far as clients coming in, but there has been changes with the children in regards to school. Naturally, when it first started, the Board of Ed went virtual. So we had to, help the clients and the kids get into the virtual programs. And then I think the socialization part of the COVID thing in general probably affects kids more than it does adults. Adults could cope better. But so through the virtual programs that we do, and also the outside activities that we're starting to do, we're trying to answer that. So that would be the biggest changes for them.
Great. So do you think the city, and that probably goes for Kara as well, but do you think the city is doing enough to properly manage the city's homeless crisis? Because now it seems that there's even more than before.
I think that maybe the eviction thing helped, you know, not being able to evict people. But I focus more on the services that we provide, you know, continuity of service, and trying to move families into permanency. You know, try to help them with the problems that they have, and hopefully come up with a solution. So that's the way we do it.
Kara, what do you think?
I think it's really tough. Like I said before, we work with folks that have been living on the street for a long time. But I am worried, you know, like a little time from now, there might be an uptick in homelessness based on how the economy's doing. So that's, you know, a thought on my mind. There's been a number of like hotels that were used and still are being used to move people out of shelter to help them space during COVID. But I think, you know, I certainly felt that it came really quickly, and, you know, we just really did the best we could to try to keep people safe.
You mentioned, Kara, that people moving into the hotels, people in some communities object to when programs to provide housing for the homeless are established in their communities. How would you counter those objections?
I'll just want to clarify, like, I work with the street outreach team. So like any shelter system, whether or not it's moving into a hotel, is a little bit out of my realm. But I know I would just say that, you know, folks need a place to be. Like, we're all struggling right now, and folks need a place to be and to be safe, and to go and wash their hands, right, and to sleep at night. And I also think, you know, there's a lot of stereotypes about homelessness, which in my experience, you know, I don't see a ton of violence or anything. I just see people really thankful for the services we're offering, and wanting to get by and move on into housing.
Michael, you have thoughts about that?
Well, I could talk for Homes for the Homeless and Saratoga Family Residents. We're a community resource center. We have an early learning center, daycare for other people, with a UPK in it, and we accept people from the community. So we're a resource for the community, as well as being a place for people who are homeless for a short period of time.
What do you think the community can do to support your organizations or homeless just in general?
We've been very lucky with donors and the like. Knock Knock Give a Sock is one of them, who donated. Jarul, the rapper, was in it as well. Donated cloth masks and the washable ones that we were able to give to all the families because of that donation. We have a lot of people that come and donate stuff to us to help us get through it. So I think the community involvement is there. It's just publicizing the need that's needed, basically.
And Carrie?
Yeah, I think just one really simple thing is just to remember that folks that are homeless in Queens need help, and are deserving of help. Is really one of the biggest things that I can think of.
Sarah, I have a question. If I see a homeless person sleeping on the street or something, what should I do? Should I give them money?
Yeah, so I think the best thing you can do is call 311. Those 311 calls are dispatched directly to my team, and we're contractually obligated to go visit the person within an hour, and we do. And we need help finding all the people that are living on the street. I think we have a pretty good working knowledge of that, but if we can have other people let us know where homeless folks that might be at risk are located, that's really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody is on the verge of becoming homeless, or where they can go to get help, is there a website, 311, or should they do? People like Misbah, for example, what they should do?
Sure, yeah. I mean, for folks that are not quite homeless yet, there's a program called Home Base that can work with folks to see if there's a way for them to keep their housing, because that's obviously the goal. It's easier to keep the housing you have than to become homeless and have to, you know, find housing again. And you can find the closest home base by calling 311. You can also call 311 for yourself if you're not sure how the shelter system works, or if you're not sure about shelter. And the outreach team contracted to do outreach in the borough you're calling from will get that call and help.
Michael, is that different for family centers?
No, I think 311 is absolutely the way to go, and plenty of information that they have there, and certainly point you in the right direction.
And now with the school starting online, how is there any challenges that the children are experiencing different than, let's say, if they were not in that situation?
I think that as far as the virtual part of it goes, it'll be similar to the way it started when COVID started. So it'll just be helping them with technology and that type of thing. Busing, when it happens, is something that we normally go through. You know, we make sure that children have the busing to go to the schools of, you know, in the areas. So I think it's going to be pretty much the same, other than trying to fill up the times that they won't be in school. And we'll continue to do outside activities and virtual programs to try to keep them engaged.
Great.
Sorry.
Sorry. Do you guys happen to accept donations from others? Is there like a way that you can donate, or is it just like through the funds that you guys are getting from somewhere else?
Is that for me?
Oh, both of you.
Okay.
Answer.
So we have a central office, Homes for the Homeless. If anybody wants to donate anything, they can call them. That number is 212-529-5252.
Yeah, and although my program's funded by the city, folks can go to our website, breakingground.org, and there's all sorts of ways to donate and otherwise volunteer and get involved.
Thank you, Kara. I should mention a website too, hfhnyc.org. Thank you.
John, you had a question?
I'm sorry, do you want to talk? Kara, I just want to know, let's say I am, or I know someone who is in danger of imminently becoming homeless, maybe eviction or something like that. What steps could I follow to apply for affordable housing?
So again, I just want to say, like, Home Base is a resource the city has. And again, you can reach Home Base by calling 311, and they'll tell you the closest location. And they're designed to help people not get evicted, right? To stay in the housing that they already have. So that would be the first thing I would try. But if folks did want to apply for Breaking Ground housing specifically, they again can go to our website, breakingground.org, and there's applications for some of our affordable units.
We have a question actually from a viewer. Besides calling 311, is there something online where someone can go and notify your team of someone who is homeless in your area, where they can put in an address to where they're located if they can't use the phone or can't speak on the phone?
Good question. So they can use the 311 app, and that allows you to do just that. Describe the homeless person you're seeing and exactly where they are. And those two things are really helpful, right? As specific as you can be with the location, like outside of a diner, and what the person looks like. That's really helpful and alternative to calling.
Can you explain for us, Kara, what kind of encounter that might involve? What your street outreach program, just they walk up to these people and they're not worried about infection or anything?
Sure, yeah. So as far as being worried about infection, we have spoken to our staff about social distancing and about wearing masks, right? So they're provided with and asked to wear masks and try to keep 6 feet between themselves and the clients in any encounter, which is doable. You can speak to someone, especially somebody you don't know, from 6 feet away. So what would happen is we would go out and, you know, maybe half the time we know the person already. So we visit them and we offer the services that they're eligible for at a time and try to build a relationship with that person. I think a common misconception is that once we go out and see a person and say, hey, we can help you with transitional housing and eventually permanent housing, they're like, yeah, sure, sign me up. But we're working with folks that have sort of slipped through the cracks and that have had past bad experience with social services, and that might be experiencing mental health or trauma or substance use. And they're a little bit ambivalent about wanting to accept help. So when we go out, we try to just like start from where they're at and building a relationship and building trust. And if that person is just like someone that's, you know, newly street homeless, we can direct them to shelter, and that might be it. If they don't accept that service right away, then we'll go back and go back and go back until we build a relationship with them.
And we'll have to end it right here. Thank you so much.